My name is Jaylee Hubbs, and this is Extrageous Art. Today we are inside my home, and behind me I have some art displays that I've done that are up on my Etsy shop. What I basically like to do in these episodes is teach a little something, so that way you can play around with it and hopefully add some extra elements to your art pieces. I can get bored pretty easily, so I like to go ahead and add different elements like wood, foam, things of that nature. Today we will be doing 3D art using foam board. Now, foam board can be pretty expensive for this one piece, depending on where you go. Like, I think Home Depot, I looked at it, it was like $10. I got this from the Dollar Tree, so it was $1. And I'm all about saving as far as costs go on art supplies. So I would highly recommend taking a look at your local Dollar Tree and seeing whether or not they have foam boards for $1 a piece. Yes, they are black. No, they do not have a sheen, but that's okay because we're going to be painting on them. So you can put a white coat on the top to make your colors more brilliant, or just paint directly on them, which I did in the Giraffe over here, which I'll show you a closer piece later on. Now today I have planned to kind of give you an idea on how I did this giraffe. I worked on him for quite a few hours, but he came out amazing and I'm really happy with the end result. What we're going to do in our project today is a D20 dice. This is kind of a ode to my friends. We play role-playing games, so yeah, a D20 dice would be pretty cool to have as a 3D piece. So what I did first was I cut out a triangle, perfectly squared, well, I guess perfectly angled triangle. And then I'm using this as my template. I've cut out 3 other ones, so at least we could put it together, or at least part of it together. We're not going to be painting it today or anything like that. This is really just to give you an idea of how to utilize foam board. And then, of course, as you're working on it, you'll pick up some of your own things on what works best for you. So I'm going to teach you on what works best for me. So let me go ahead and change the camera angle and have it face downward so you can watch what I'm doing. I'll also talk about the other supplies that I have. Okay, so firstly, you'll see I have a cutting mat. This cutting mat allows me to actually make cuts on this, and it keeps it working for me. Another thing here is I have this kit. I got this from Amazon. This actually came together. It actually had a third element to it, which was a rolling razor, so that way, which I've used for matting. I have my handy dandy foam board here, and this kit also had come with this nice ruler, which actually has a lot of the elements for angles, which honestly helped me out quite a bit when making this triangle, because a perfect triangle is not a 90 degree. So at first, that's what I was doing a 90 degree, but that's what we're here for. We're here to learn, and we constantly have to figure things out as we're growing. So to start off, now that I already had cut out this with my ruler, I'm going to use the foam boarding. I like to go ahead and try to use the edges since they're already perfectly cut. And now you can do one of 2 things. You can actually stencil this and cut a line. Go ahead and draw a line around this and do it that way. I've actually been doing it where I just push the razor next to the foam boarding and then I cut downward into the piece that I'm actually cutting. So that way I'm making the same edge. Obviously, light is extremely important, and you definitely want to make sure that you're doing this with safety in mind. I try to keep the razor away from me at all times. So that's an extremely important aspect, is making sure you don't cut yourself. So once I have the actual cut done, I'll go ahead and I'll go deeper with it. And then it'll ideally pop out on its own. Sometimes you have to take the razor and just kind of, I like to kind of saw it, and then you have your triangle. Now, this one actually seems a little bit off to me in comparison to my other ones, to be completely honest with you. So I'm not exactly sure why that one came out that way. So I'm going to go ahead and toss that one. But as you can see, you can get the gist of it as far as how to go about cutting. Next, what you're going to want to do is, after you've cut out all of your pieces, now this is a D20, so I'm going to need 20 of these pieces if I want to make it perfectly a perfect die. More than likely, I'll leave out a couple. And just so, in case you don't know what a D20 is, this is a D20. It has 20 sides to a dice, which is why it's called a D20. You can see that all of the shapes on here are triangular, which give it the D20 capability. So these are my other forms that I have for us today. And I'll go ahead, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna need to make this at a different type of edge than a straight edge. And the reasoning why is because if you're gonna be putting these together and these don't exactly fit, you'll have a gap. As you can see there, you'll have a gap there when you're trying to put these together. So you want to make sure that they meet perfectly together, and the only way to do that is to take down the sides. And I'll show you how to do that. That's what I've done to these three over here, and this one we'll do together. So when I do it, what I do is I like to kind of saw at the first point, and then try to get my angle right, and try not to cut on the stencil itself, and then I just drag it along, making sure not to touch the design on the very, very front. I do it on all three sides. You can do it one at a time. It just really depends on how comfortable you get with doing it. So let me go ahead and get this last piece. And then what I do is I turn it over. This one's already kind of popped off, which is great. This one is dangling, so what I usually do is lift it up, and I'll take the straight edge of the blade and I'll just cut it off. The rest of it pointing away from me, always pointing away from me. Safety, you know, you don't want to ever put a knife up against you. Always have it towards the outside. So now we have it routed at the edges, and what that does now is it gives us that leeway to be able to have a nice gap. I mean, a nice joining of the two, you see. So then what we're going to do, and the best way I have found as far as putting these pieces together, is using a hot glue gun. I did try Elmer's glue, but the hot glue gun obviously makes it a lot easier to put it together right away. So I'm just going to put a little there, and we're just going to join these two. And I'm going to try to make it at a 45 degree. It looks about at a 45, and then I'm just going to hold these pieces together until the glue dries. And I've got a point, so now I can put more glue on the inside here. And then hold those together. So now we've got the points together. Now you can see that that 3D effect is starting to formulate. Let me go ahead and glue some more edges here. That way we can get a much better idea of what we're going for. Now remember what shape you're taking, because the shape, you need to be able to go ahead and make the right angles here. See, I almost started making a triangle instead here, and that would not be good, because as you can see, I have to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces together in this circle, and that'll give me my immediate shape, and then I'll be able to go off of that for the remainder of it. The glue is still a little warm, so I was able to still formulate that. Now remember, like, I need 2 more pieces to fit here, so I need to make sure I have the right angles for this when it dries. Now this piece I'll probably end up having to take apart or bend a little bit more and then remold by putting some more hot glue down. But I think we're starting to get it. Yeah, that looks about right. Perfect. So let me go ahead and do the last piece here. Now, normally I would recommend painting this prior to, or at least giving it a base coat. That way you can get the lines nice and even. That would be my recommendation. As I'm saying, you know, today is a demo. This is just to give you an idea. And then you can always put fix the coloring later. So as you can see, now we have a 3D form, and it didn't take that long. It wasn't that bad, right? This piece, I think this was oh, you know what? Actually, it was the angle that I had done it. Let me go ahead and do the last piece. So as I said, I take the edge, I saw it in, and then I put it at an angle as I'm dragging. And you do that for all sides so you can take part of the foam boarding out. Now, I actually learned how to do this when I went to art graphic design school at Broward College. The professor there, we did 3D art, and it was a really cool class, and I probably have to say a lot of my ideas have kind of stemmed from that professor. And unfortunately, I don't remember that professor's name. And I did end up changing my major, uh, mostly because I didn't have like validation that what I was doing, and my family wasn't exactly for it. Now, of course, I'm older and I don't really care what they think. So the last piece, you're gonna see that it's not perfectly in there, right? So we'll bend it because the hot glue is still bendable, and then we'll make it, see? And now it's gonna fit in there. So I'll go ahead and take some hot glue. And we'll just do the one side for right now. And push that in like so. And take the hot glue and then fill in the gaps. Make sure it's nice and secure. And hot glue, now I just want to make a point as far as hot glue goes. So I actually had made a piece of art that was going outside, and I used wooden dowels. And the problem is that I initially glued everything with the hot glue gun. Now I'm in South Florida, and the problem with South Florida is it gets extremely hot. And what eventually ended up happening with the hot glue is that it melted, and my dowels that were glued together initially started to fall apart. So I had to go back and use a different type of glue. So if your plan is anything like that, please make sure to go around this and use an Elmer's glue. Elmer's glue would glue, any of those glues really work, but you'll have to replace the hot glue. This is the never-ending hot glue webs. So now you can see we have the top of a D20 dice. And then what we would do is cut out more of the triangles and keep that form until we have the entire dice. But it's pretty cool to be able to go ahead and do that. So you could do 3D forming. I'm gonna go ahead and move the camera towards me. You can do this 3D foam board with a lot of different elements. My original piece was literally just squares, and those squares protruded outward, and it was different levels, and it kind of looked like an architectural design. Somebody actually loved my piece. They actually wanted to keep it. It was just a trial, so I wasn't too, heartfelt when I had to say goodbye to it. And then what I had done was I took different shades to bring even more depth into the 3D design. So what I'm going to do is just kind of show you what this type of forms can do for you. See, as you can see, I mentioned this last week that I had done the backing of this. I also had stained this, and I want to just mention again about stain. Whatever you do, don't buy a bunch of different colors for stain. Buy a lacquer, which is a clear coat that gives it the sheen. Take your paint, put it some water, and then paint it on with the water, because wood is extremely absorbent, and I formulated this color with my paint. So, and it looks like a mahogany wood, and I did that all the way around, and then I just lacquered it with the clear high gloss. So you'll see what I did inside here. You see the 3D form that I had created, which is a giraffe. This piece is almost done. It's going to be going up on my shop on Etsy. It's taken me a lot of hours to create this. And there's still one more element that I want to do, which is I want to put glass, I want to paint on the back of this, and then I want to etch into the glass, which is something that we're going to talk about in one of my episodes. We're going to work with etching glass. I've always been kind of scared of glass myself. I have scars to prove it. But etching is quite a bit different, and it can be a lot of fun. And what I'd like to do is not this coming week, but the following week. I'll probably want to do some etching of glass for you guys. Next week, I would like to do some wood burning, so I plan on doing wood burning next week. I have a gift idea for a very important family. They're like an adopted family of mine, my good friend, his wife, and his kids. So I want to wood burn their family onto a piece of wood, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to do it with you guys. If you do have any questions, please feel free, email me, write me on Twitch, whatever the case may be. It's all Extrageous Art, whether it's Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube. This video will be up on YouTube. I'm pretty much hit all of the different media platforms. And of course, check out my store. If you do like my ideas, my art, I'll be more than happy to sell you a piece. Once again, my name is Jaylee Hubbs, and this is Extrageous Art. Thanks for